Hello again. I'm Bob Weir with another interview of People in the News in North Texas. My guest today is my good friend Barbara McGee, who just returned from a few weeks in Africa on a missionary trip. Thanks for being here, Barbara.
Thank you for asking me.
I want to begin by telling us basic things like what city did you stay in?
I stayed in Johannesburg.
And what accommodations were like there?
We stayed with an organization called Impact Africa, and they have actually been able to purchase a bed and breakfast. So it's a little bit outside the city, up kind of in the mountains, and they have about 7.5 acres there that their property sits on.
And Impact Africa, they do the arranging of the trip and
Yes,
stuff like that?
they did all of the arranging
Oh,
of the
okay.
flights and everything, yes.
And the government of Africa was not involved in the coordination of the mission, right?
No, not at all.
Oh, okay. So tell us about the living conditions of the people that you visited.
Well, I would have to say that they're about as sad as you would see on TV. We're talking about homes that are built out of plywood with corrugated tin for roofs. Some of them are just cardboard, heavy cardboard put together on the ground for them to sleep. Once you're inside their place, they will find old pieces of cardboard or old pieces of carpet, if they're fortunate enough to find old pieces of carpet, and put that on the ground so that they're not always on dirt. But the ground is a combination of dirt, glass, and gravel.
About how many people were in the village where you stayed?
This particular Deep Sloop village, there were thousands. I don't even know, because they don't even know how
Right.
many, because these are people coming from all over Africa to Johannesburg to find work in order to even have food to eat. And so they come to these places, these shanty towns like Deep Sloop, and they find a little corner, a little space, and build something to cover themselves with, and that's where they live.
What type of provisions did your group bring to the residents there, for example?
We had the opportunity to bring a lot of things for Christmas packages. So we brought things like clothing, we brought crayons and pens and balloons and things for the children. We brought socks and hats and
these are
coloring
children
books.
and grown-ups
Right,
and
yeah, we
adults and all?
focused more on bringing some things for the children so they would have something for Christmas.
How about the food over there? What's the diet like for the people who live there?
Well, it's pretty much whatever they can find to eat. I had the opportunity to experience some of the food that they had, and so I ate what was called mopan, which is a worm that's ranges in size from here to here, and actually it looks kind of like a grub worm.
Well, that sounds delicious.
Yeah.
You got a lot of garlic on it, onions and
There
stuff
you
like
go,
that.
there you go. I was not a big fan of it dried, but once they cooked it and put it with some tomatoes, or what I hope was tomatoes, and some onions, and a little bit of this mealy potato stuff that they make, it actually was very good.
Yeah.
Now, I do know that when we were at the grocery store, there were some women, and there was a tree there, and they were picking something off the tree. And so when we asked them what they were picking off the tree, they showed us, and they were actually picking the mopan. So this is not a worm that comes from the ground. This is a worm that eats from the trees.
Right. So it wasn't that bad, really.
No.
Well, I'm glad, Barbara.
I did go out for seconds for the
Barbara, I'm
cook
glad
part.
you liked it, because for dinner tonight we're having crumb worms with rice and beans.
Well, the mopan is very high in protein, and these are people that really can't afford beef
Yeah.
or
And
those
of
kinds
course,
of meat. Yeah.
Yeah, and I understand you also you've eaten some ostrich and crocodile while you were there?
Yes, really. It was so good.
Was it good?
Yeah,
Really?
yeah, it was really good. I was absolutely amazed.
Yeah. You didn't have to kill it, though.
No,
to
no,
eat it,
thank
though.
goodness. I let somebody else kill it.
They handled that for you.
Yeah.
And you know, we hear about exotic foods like that all the time. I mean, but if you cook it properly, you know, and it can taste delicious. I don't know what the grub worm looks like in the dish when you're lifting it up, but it probably tastes great, right?
Well, and you know what? I dug right in with my fingers, just like they eat.
Sure.
There you go.
When in Rome or Africa, you know. How about the sanitary conditions there? Like how people have restroom facilities and stuff like that?
Okay, so in the Deep Slough area, there's a huge open space, and in that open space, the government provides porta potties. But other than that, there is no facilities. These are just huts built on a piece of ground, like you would go into your backyard and build. Just stick it on a piece of ground and just build from it. And so you have no running water, you have no electricity, and you have no bathroom.
Yeah, and speaking of electricity, do they have lights most of the time, or for things like lighting at night or stuff like that, or?
Well, now some of them, there are some electric wires in there, so there were some people that actually tapped in illegally to the wires, and so they had electricity, especially on the perimeter, but as you go further in, they really don't have any electricity. We did meet and talk with the man who was working on some small little solar lights, trying to figure out how to, you know, put them in and cut a hole and shine down into his home.
Anybody tap in to get HBO or Netflix or anything like that?
But you know what, believe it or not, the perimeter houses, some of them actually had satellite dishes.
Really?
Because they can live here completely free,
Oh.
if they've got a job that's consistent, that they're actually making money consistently on, and they can afford that. So if they're going to have satellite, then they're for sure going to be sending their children to school.
And you mentioned earlier that some of them have cell phones as well. Right?
Some of them do have cell phones, and that's really kind of a necessity for them, because that's the only way that they can really keep a steady job, is to have that cell phone. Or
Well,
know somebody in the area that does.
So
anyway.
there's some level of technology there.
There is, there is.
How about the education for the kids? They have schools that the kids attend, classes and things like that?
They do have schools. The children, though, the government requires that they pay a little bit of money to go to school, so they have to buy a uniform. So if the family can't afford to buy the uniform, and a lot of times it comes down to whether we put food on the table or you have a uniform to go to school.
Yeah.
It's always going to be the food. And so there's a large portion of the kids that never get to go to school. Impact Africa has a program where they get children sponsored, and they have preschools. So their attitude is to get these children into preschool and get them learning, and the education that our children receive in preschool, get them learning that, so that as they grow, when they get ready to go to regular school, they don't drop out. Because there's a big portion of kids, once they get into the 6th grade, they don't have that lower education, that preschool education, so everything is much harder for them. They have a hard time learning, they have a hard time reading, and then they finally just give up.
All right, let me quickly go over healthcare. What's that like with them?
The healthcare is rough. They do have free healthcare, but you have to be at the clinics by 7 o'clock in the morning, and sometimes you will sit, for the most part, you will sit all day long, and sometimes you will never even be seen by the doctor. You take a number and you wait.
Yeah.
And we did spend quite a bit of time going in and out of the healthcare centers and talking with people. One healthcare center we visited, one half of it was solely dedicated just to HIV people.
Oh, well, that's quite a different world over there.
Yeah, it is.
So if others wanted to get involved, they can go to www.impactafrica.org.
Yes.
And then get information on it there. We're coming to a close here, so is there anything you'd like to add before we close?
All I would like to say is, if you've ever had, even for a moment's thought, to go on a mission trip or to do something like this, don't hesitate. Just go.
Well, thank you, Barbara, for all the things that you do. Your heartfelt compassion is going to be rewarded. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate it. And thank you so much for watching.